G'day there. Have you ever wondered what it takes to be a landscape photographer? Passion for landscape photography is only really going to get you so far. And so after a while, there's certain traits, I think, that come into play if you're going to continue doing landscape photography. And that's what I'm going to share with you this week. What are the most important traits for landscape photography? This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So if you need a website, a domain, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace and use the discount code Marr. So what this video is not going to cover is the business side of landscape photography. Really, that's for another video. This is really going to just focus on the practice of getting out and taking landscape images. Just to be clear, this is my opinion, and there's not really a lot of science behind this. I'm just reflecting on my own experience and talking to other photographers. The first one is determination. And I think determination can be really important for any project or hobby that you take on. Not so much at the beginning because things are exciting and new and you want to learn everything about a camera and go out and shoot anything that moves. Well, that certainly was the way that I was when I started my landscape adventures. But over time, determination plays a part when you need to push yourself to get up early to make sure you get that early sunrise, or to stay late when the sun sets and the midges and the mozzies come out and start biting. But eventually, throughout your progress of project or a hobby, you might find that your improvement starts to plateau. Things get a little bit tougher. You might get a little bit bored. And so your determination plays a part in making sure that you're continuing to go out. The negative side of all of this is when your determination starts to take over and you lose focus in why you were doing landscape photography in the first place. And your motivation starts to fade, and quite often it's referred to as burnout. And so my suggestion is to take a bit of a break. Or if you don't take a break, at least have a moment where you remind yourself of why you took on landscape photography in the first place. It could be the opportunity of going out into nature and engaging with the outdoors. It could be the opportunity to disconnect from the rest of the world or from other parts of your life, like work. It could be the exercise that you get or just the well-being that you enjoy by being outdoors. There's other ways to get inspired also. It could be a little project within landscape photography that you set up that gets you to go out and shoot more often. It could be a new bit of gear. I know that's a bit taboo on YouTube, but I don't mind saying that I've in the past gone out and bought a lens and experimented with the lens, and it's got me to think differently about how I capture images, and that's a really good way of getting inspired again. Or it could be just a new location that you decide to visit, and that'll get you inspired. It could be as simple as buying a book or buying a course or talking to other photographers, or a little bit of self-promotion here. Go and watch one of my on-location trip videos and get inspired to take your own adventure for landscape photography. While your determination is the thing that gets you out there in the first place, your perseverance is what you can rely on to help you stay out there, help you hang around longer and shoot more. The thing is that with landscape photography, you're going to be shooting in all different types of conditions, from cold, wet mornings to hot, humid evenings and afternoons. You're going to be in rain, you're going to be in wind, it's going to be snowing sometimes depending on where you shoot. And it's your perseverance that's going to stop you talking yourself out of hanging around and going home. The advantage, of course, is while these conditions aren't comfortable to be in, they can often provide the best opportunities for some great landscape images. So as you find your perseverance starting to fade in any scenario, remind yourself of two things. One is the conditions are uncomfortable and there's probably nobody else around that is shooting in these conditions, so you're likely to pick up an image that's quite unique. The second thing, though, is that these conditions are probably going to provide some quite unique lighting conditions or atmosphere across your scene. An example of this is during the humid summers that we can sometimes get here in Perth, the cloud can be quite high. And so just as the sun is starting to set, if there's a bit of a break on the horizon, it can shine some light up into the clouds and I can get some really nice colour in the sky. Alternatively, in winter, as you get the fronts coming through from the southwest, the sunsets can be quite interesting because as the cloud is starting to break up, the light from the sun as it's setting in the west bounces around the clouds and can create some quite interesting colour for some seascapes. So the way in which you can persevere for longer is to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible. So make sure that you bring some food. I usually have a muesli bar or some trail mix with me. Make sure you have a drink. I usually just bring some water. I usually have a warm jacket on if it's cold, or a rain jacket if it's likely to rain. The more comfortable I am, the more likely I'm going to enjoy the experience and I'm going to hang around. The longer I hang around, the more likely I'm going to be able to pick up an image or capture a really special landscape photo. This next one is probably a little bit obvious, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. And that is, as a photographer of natural landscapes, it's going to be really helpful if you appreciate nature itself. It's probably going to help in two ways. One is if you enjoy being outdoors, if you enjoy being in nature, then you're going to enjoy the experience of landscape photography. And as I mentioned before, the more time you spend out on location, the better your chances are in capturing a really nice landscape image. I know myself, I really enjoy this aspect of landscape photography to the point where I'll still go out into nature. I go for hikes and often go camping and don't take my photography gear with me, because it's just being out in nature itself that I get the reward from. The second way that this is probably going to help is if you not only enjoy being out in nature, but are really interested in natural things and are a great admirer of what nature has to offer, then you'll have a keen eye in picking up little things like patterns and natural textures, natural light that occur across a landscape. And this is going to be really helpful when you are starting to pull together a scene, when you're observing an area and trying to work out a nice composition. I've actually put all of this together as a video, which I'll link up the top here in the corner. All of these things are going to be really helpful when you're finding really interesting subjects for landscape images. With any skill you're trying to learn or develop, the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. And landscape photography is no different. That's why the first two traits are so important. They get you out on location and shooting more. But if you want to accelerate your learning and development, the best thing to do is to reflect on what you're doing. To put it simply, through a little bit of reflection, you can work out what you're doing wrong, so you can do less of that, and what you're doing right, and so you can do more of that. So how do you reflect on your images? Well, the best thing to do there is to just simply edit your shots. You might think that editing your shots, the main goal is to enhance that final image, and you'd be right. But it's a great opportunity also to have a bit of a closer look and to analyse your image, to have a look at the composition, to work out what's working and what's not working. Some people are quite good with their editing. They love going out, taking shots, and then they'll come straight home and start editing straight away. Other people need a little bit more of a reason. And so the best idea there is to actually create a reason, like a little project where you have a goal to share an image once or twice a week on social media like Instagram or Twitter. Better yet, create your own website to share your images there. Just so happens that this video is sponsored by Squarespace, and Squarespace has got to be the easiest way to create gorgeous looking websites. I can genuinely recommend them because I've been using them for years. I love using Squarespace for my own website because it's so quick to set up and easy to make changes. You can begin by selecting from one of their beautifully designed templates and then start adding pages. Each time you add a page, you can select from one of the layouts they provide and immediately start adding your own content. This makes the process really fast. In just a few clicks, you can have a landing page, a gallery of images, and even a contacts page. You can even have a fully fledged blog within just a few minutes to start sharing your projects and your own photography trips. Over time, you can extend your website with a membership area, email campaigns, and even an online store to start selling your prints. So as your photography grows, your website can grow with you. Head on over to squarespace.com for a free trial. That'll give you heaps of time to set up your website. And then when you're ready to launch, make sure you go to squarespace.com/Andrew Marr to get 10% off your first purchase. For this last one, you're probably expecting me to say something like it's important to be creative. But in actual fact, I think it's more important that you have a willingness to take risks. I'm not talking about physical risks like hanging off the side of a rock cliff to take a photo. I'm more talking about the risks associated around how you approach your photography. Changing up what you're doing without necessarily knowing exactly what the results are going to be is the best way to extend your photography. Be prepared to think outside your comfort zone. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of creating a style for your landscape photography, because that's essentially creating a comfort zone, and it potentially can restrict your creativity, which is actually the opposite to what you want to be doing. One of the ways of thinking about taking risks is by looking at the norms and the rules of landscape photography and see how you can break them. That could be like the rules of composition, or it could be as easy as just shooting at a wide aperture so not everything is in focus in your shot, or shooting for a day without a tripod and just experimenting with hand-holding the camera. Another way to think about it is to take on a challenge, like shooting in the middle of the day when there's really harsh light, or shooting at a fixed focal length. And I've been doing a similar sort of thing with that with my GFX 100S. I've only got one lens for it, which is the 32 to 64. And that's not a typical focal range that I shoot at. But for the last year, when I've been using that camera, I've been shooting between those two focal ranges. And while it's been challenging, it's actually been quite rewarding, and I've really enjoyed the images that I've been capturing. And it's made me think a little bit more about how I should probably start shooting more in that focal range. In the end, creativity is not as important as your willingness to experiment with your photography and extend your learning. All these traits work together. Determination and perseverance gets us out there and shooting more. Challenges and projects that we decide to take on is great motivation, and it's a great way of learning something new and taking risks artistically. And being reflective allows us to look at what's working and work out what we want to improve, which is great motivation for your next trip. And so the cycle continues. The best thing is that landscape photography is a lifelong learning experience. There's always something new to discover. So if you don't have all of these characteristics, are you going to fail at landscape photography? No, not at all. Some of these you're going to be really strong at, and others you can work on. But being aware of these traits and knowing which ones you can rely on and which ones you can build up with the things that I've suggested here is going to help. There's probably other characteristics that help us in our success as landscape photographers. If you think I've missed any, please add them to the comments below. I hope you found something here that you can think about for your next photography trip. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.